I'll give you my salary if you can translate this, mocked the millionaire CEO to the cleaning lady. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get started. You might think that the lives of the super rich and ordinary people don't often cross paths. But sometimes, fate has a funny way of bringing people together, even when they least expect it. Meet Jordan, a millionaire CEO known for his ruthless business acumen. He had the world at his feet, luxury homes, private jets, and all the power he could ever need. But what he didn't have was respect for the people who worked for him. To him, they were just tools, easily replaced. One day, during a particularly dull business meeting, Jordan found himself walking through the halls of his company's headquarters when he bumped into Carla, the cleaning lady. She was in the middle of wiping down the windows, looking completely unaware of the millionaire's presence. But Jordan wasn't the kind of man to be ignored. "Excuse me, you, there," he said with a smug grin. "Can you even read or write? Because I need someone to translate this for me. I'll give you my salary for the month if you can manage it." The words hung in the air, mocking her in front of the few people who had witnessed the exchange. Carla stood still, taken aback for a moment. She was used to being looked down on, but not like this. But there was something in his voice, something challenging her to prove herself. "I may not have your fancy education or your big salary, but I'm not a fool," she replied, standing tall despite the clear intimidation. Jordan raised an eyebrow, intrigued by her response. This wasn't the reaction he was used to getting from people in her position. He expected her to cower, maybe even apologize for not being worthy of his attention. But instead, she stood her ground, her eyes locking with his in a silent challenge. A smirk tugged at the corners of Jordan's mouth. "All right then, if you're so confident, let's see what you can do. I'll give you a chance," he said, tossing a thick file in her direction. "Translate this, and you'll get your reward. Prove me wrong, and I'll make sure you never work here again." Carla took a deep breath. She had no idea what he meant by translate this, but she wasn't about to back down now. "I'll do it," she said, picking up the file. Little did Jordan know, this was just the beginning of a chain of events that would change both their lives forever. Carla had no idea what she was about to get into, nor did she realize that Jordan had his own demons to face, ones that would soon lead him to question everything he thought he knew about wealth, power, and people like her. What would happen next? How could one simple challenge between a CEO and a cleaning lady turn into something so much bigger? Stay tuned to find out what unfolds as Carla and Jordan's worlds collide, and how the power of kindness and dignity would eventually turn everything upside down. Carla sat in the small, dimly lit office, the thick file in front of her like an obstacle that she was determined to conquer. The weight of Jordan's challenge lingered in her mind, but she wasn't one to back down. She wasn't afraid of him or his wealth. After all, she had spent her entire life cleaning up the messes of others, both literally and metaphorically. This was just another mess to clean, one she was ready for. As she opened the file, she took in a deep breath. It was filled with complicated legal jargon and business terms she barely understood. Her head spun as she glanced through the pages, each one more intimidating than the last. But then she remembered something her mother used to say: "When things seem impossible, you have to take it one step at a time." So that's what she did. She started with one sentence, then another, and soon, the words began to make sense. She was used to learning on the fly, adapting quickly, and not letting fear hold her back. As the hours passed, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the room in an orange glow. Jordan had told her to translate the document by morning, but with each page, she was getting closer to a breakthrough. She had always worked hard, but this felt different. It wasn't just about doing a job, it was about proving something to herself. Hours later, she finished the task, feeling a mix of relief and pride. It wasn't perfect, but it was more than she had expected to accomplish. She was ready to face Jordan and show him that she was more than just a cleaning lady. At the same time, Jordan sat in his penthouse, still unable to shake the strange encounter earlier that day. He had offered her the challenge as a joke, expecting her to fail. But when he thought about it, he realized something. She didn't back down. She didn't flinch. In fact, she stood up to him, something few people did. That thought lingered in his mind. He could have easily dismissed her. He could have simply handed the task over to one of his assistants and moved on. But no, something about her had intrigued him. So, he found himself waiting for the next morning with an unusual sense of anticipation. When Carla walked into his office the next day, her expression was calm, almost unreadable. She held the file in her hands and placed it on his desk without a word. Jordan raised an eyebrow, not sure what to expect. He opened the file, scanning the pages, and his eyes widened. She had done it. She had translated the document, accurately. Her work wasn't perfect, but it was damn close. He looked up at her, surprised. "You actually did it," he said, his voice almost a whisper. Carla shrugged, a small, confident smile on her lips. "I told you I would." Jordan couldn't help but respect her determination. He had underestimated her, and now, he was paying the price. This wasn't just about the challenge anymore. Something had shifted. Something was changing. Jordan leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. "I never expected this from you," he admitted, his voice low. Carla stood there, her eyes meeting his with quiet strength. "I'm not what you think I am," she said, her voice steady. Jordan's gaze softened. He realized that she was more than just a cleaning lady. She was someone who had more to offer than he could have ever imagined. The respect he had for her grew in that moment. But what happened next would surprise them both. Jordan's next words caught Carla off guard. "I have a proposition for you," he said, his voice a mix of curiosity and sincerity. "You've proven something today. What do you think about working with me? Not just cleaning, but helping with something bigger." Carla blinked, surprised by the offer. She had expected to be dismissed, to be sent back to her routine of cleaning and serving without a second thought. But here he was, offering her something entirely different. She took a deep breath, her heart racing. Was this a test, or was he serious? And what would it mean for her? The answer could change everything for both of them. "I know this is a huge leap, but sometimes, life pushes you in a direction you never saw coming." Jordan sat at his desk, the file Carla had handed him still open in front of him. He couldn't stop thinking about what she had said. Her words echoed in his mind. "I'm not what you think I am." He had never imagined that someone like her, someone who he had once dismissed so easily, would turn out to be more than he ever expected. He had hired her to clean, but in the short time they had interacted, she had done so much more. She had proven herself, not just in her translation, but in her quiet strength, her integrity, and her courage. "What do you think about working with me?" His own words felt foreign to him now, almost unreal. But he meant them. Not just cleaning, but something bigger. The silence stretched between them as Carla considered his offer. She had never imagined being in this position. A simple cleaning lady who had to scrape by every day, and here she was, standing in front of the CEO of one of the biggest companies in the city, being offered a chance to work alongside him. It felt like a dream, but it also felt real. And the more she thought about it, the more it felt like it was the right choice. "What would I be doing?" she asked, her voice steady but unsure. Jordan leaned forward, his expression serious. "I want to offer you a role that's more than just cleaning. I need someone who understands the value of hard work, of integrity, and who isn't afraid to challenge the system. You proved that today." He paused, giving her a moment to absorb what he was saying. "You'll help me with special projects, guide a team, and, if you're up for it, eventually oversee a department. I believe you have the potential to lead, Carla." The words hung in the air, and for a moment, Carla couldn't speak. It was too much to take in. A part of her wanted to refuse, to say no, to return to her old life where things were simple and predictable. But another part of her, a part that had been fighting for so long, wanted to accept, to take a chance, to prove to herself that she could do more. She looked up at him, her heart pounding. "I don't know what to say," she admitted. Jordan gave her a small smile. "You don't have to say anything right now. Take your time. Just know that the offer is real." Carla stepped out of his office, her mind racing. Could she really do this? Could she step into a world so different from her own? She had always dreamed of something more, of a life where she didn't have to struggle every day just to survive. But this was a huge leap. It wasn't just a job, it was a completely different life. She walked down the hallway, her thoughts a blur, and then she saw the reflection of herself in the glass doors. She stopped. The woman staring back at her wasn't the same one who had walked in that morning. Something had changed. She had just been offered the chance of a lifetime. And for the first time in a long time, she felt like maybe she was worth it. Meanwhile, Jordan sat back in his chair, still thinking about their conversation. He had made the offer because he believed in her potential, but there was something more, something he hadn't expected. He respected her, and maybe, just maybe, this wasn't just about business anymore. Something inside him had shifted, and it wasn't just about her work ethic. It was about her humanity, the way she had made him see the world differently. He had underestimated her, but now he was curious about what they could accomplish together, and what else she might teach him along the way. I don't know what it was about the way Jordan had looked at her. He was seeing something in her that no one else had. She had walked out of his office unsure, but as the day went on, a quiet excitement built up inside her. For the first time, someone had seen more than just the cleaning lady. Jordan believed in her potential, and that was a gift she wasn't going to take lightly. Carla had always lived her life trying to survive, never expecting anything beyond what she had. But now, an opportunity had been placed right in front of her. Could she really take it? Could she leave behind the world she knew and step into something new? She wasn't sure, but she knew one thing. This was her chance to change everything. When she arrived home that evening, the weight of the decision was still heavy on her mind. Her small apartment felt even smaller with the uncertainty that filled the air. Her children were asleep, and the silence in the apartment gave her room to think. She pulled out the file Jordan had given her, the one she had worked so hard to translate. She looked at the words she had translated, her eyes tracing over the sentences that once seemed so foreign, now familiar. She had done it. She had translated that complicated document, and she had done it well. But the real challenge wasn't the translation. It was what came next. The next morning, Jordan called her. "Carla, I want to check in and see how you're feeling about the offer. I know it's a big decision." His voice was sincere, and it calmed some of the nerves that had been growing inside her. "I'm still thinking about it," she replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "It's a lot to take in." "I understand," Jordan said. "Take your time. But know this, there's a place for you here. I want to see what you're capable of, and I think you'll be surprised by what you can achieve." Carla felt a warmth in his words that she hadn't expected. He wasn't just offering her a job. He was offering her a chance to prove herself, to step up in ways she never thought possible. She ended the call and stood there for a moment, feeling the weight of his words settle in her chest. What if this was more than just a chance to prove herself at work? What if it was the start of something more? She thought back to their first interaction, the way he had challenged her, the way she had responded without backing down. She had held her ground, and now he was offering her a chance to stand even taller. As the day went on, she felt the fear that had gripped her begin to fade. She wasn't going to let this opportunity slip away. She picked up the phone and dialed Jordan's number. "I've made my decision," she said when he answered. There was a brief silence on the other end before he spoke. "And I accept the offer," Carla said, her voice filled with quiet determination. There was a pause, and then Jordan spoke again, his tone soft but firm. "Good. I knew you would." As she hung up the phone, Carla felt a surge of energy run through her. This was it. This was her moment. And for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was in control of her own destiny. Carla walked into the sleek, polished office building the next morning, feeling a mixture of excitement and anxiety. The sleek glass doors slid open, and she was immediately struck by the cold efficiency of the place. This was the world Jordan lived in, a world of power and wealth. And here she was, standing at the threshold of something that could change her life forever. She was no longer just the cleaning lady. Now, she was part of something bigger. As she made her way to the elevators, she couldn't help but notice how everyone around her seemed so focused, so confident. The high heels clicking on the marble floor, the crisp suits, the quiet murmurs of important business conversations. It all felt so foreign to her. But this was where she belonged now, and it was time to step up. Jordan had given her a chance, and she wasn't going to waste it. She stepped into the elevator, taking a deep breath as the doors closed. She glanced at herself in the reflection, adjusting the blouse and skirt she had bought just for this occasion. It wasn't much, but it was the best she could do, and for now, it would have to be enough. As the elevator ascended, her heart pounded in her chest. She was about to meet with Jordan, to begin this new role, and she wasn't sure what to expect. She didn't have a corporate background, no fancy degree from a prestigious university. All she had was her determination and a work ethic that could not be matched. The elevator stopped on the top floor, and the doors opened to reveal a wide, open-plan office. It was breathtaking, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city below. Carla stepped out, feeling like she was walking into a different world. She was greeted by one of Jordan's assistants, a young woman in a sharp, tailored suit. "Carla, right?" the assistant asked, smiling warmly. "Jordan's expecting you." Carla nodded, her throat dry. "Yes, that's me." She followed the assistant down the hallway, her shoes clicking softly on the polished floors. As they reached Jordan's office, the assistant opened the door. "Here we are? I'll let him know you're here." Carla stepped inside, her nerves jangling, but she took another deep breath and stood tall. Jordan was seated at his desk, looking up as she entered. His eyes softened when he saw her. "Carla," he said, standing up and offering his hand. "Welcome. I'm glad you're here." "Thank you," she replied, shaking his hand firmly. "I'm ready." Jordan nodded, his eyes studying her for a moment before he spoke again. "I know this is a big transition for you, and I want to make sure you feel supported every step of the way. Let's start with something simple. I need your help on a project, and I want to see how you handle it." Carla's heart raced at the idea of jumping straight into something important. But she wasn't going to shy away. She had come this far, and now it was time to prove herself. "I'm ready," she repeated, her voice steady. Jordan smiled, clearly impressed by her confidence. "I like that. Let's get started then." For the next few hours, they worked together on the project, and with every passing minute, Carla felt more comfortable in the new role. She asked questions when needed, took notes, and offered her insights. Jordan's respect for her grew as he watched her work. She wasn't afraid to speak up, to challenge ideas, and to contribute in ways he hadn't expected. By the end of the day, Jordan looked at her with a mix of admiration and curiosity. "You're a lot more capable than I thought, Carla." "I'm impressed." Carla couldn't help but smile, the weight of the day lifting off her shoulders. "Thank you, Jordan. I'm just getting started." She had done it. She had stepped into this new world, and she had proven to herself that she could handle it. But as she walked out of his office, there was still a lingering thought in the back of her mind. What would happen next? She had taken the first step, but there was still so much more to prove. The days passed quickly, and with each new task, Carla felt more at ease in her new role. It wasn't easy. There were moments of doubt, moments when she questioned whether she belonged in this world of power, wealth, and ambition. But every time she doubted herself, Jordan was there, offering encouragement, guidance, and a new challenge. She had never expected to be treated with such respect, especially not by someone like him. He was the CEO of a massive company, yet he saw something in her that others never had. Slowly, as she adapted to her new responsibilities, Carla realized that this was more than just a job. It was a chance to rebuild her life, to prove that she could do more than just survive. She could thrive. The work was demanding, but it was rewarding. She was no longer just cleaning the floors or working in the background. She was in meetings, contributing ideas, and making decisions. It felt like a dream, but it was her reality now. One afternoon, Jordan called her into his office. It was a quiet day, and the office felt empty, almost too still. She stepped into his office, expecting to discuss some project she had been working on, but instead, Jordan was standing by the window, looking out at the city. "Carla," he said, turning to face her. "I need to ask you something." His tone was serious, and Carla felt a twinge of anxiety. "What is it?" she asked, trying to hide the nervousness in her voice. "I've been thinking about your future here," Jordan said. "You've done incredible work so far, and I think you're ready for more." He paused, walking toward her with a determined look on his face. "I want to offer you a leadership position, a real one. You'll manage a team, oversee important projects, and help shape the future of the company." Carla's heart skipped a beat. Leadership? She had never imagined being in charge of anything, let alone leading a team of people. "Are you sure?" "I mean, I've only been here for a few weeks. I'm still learning." Jordan smiled, a knowing smile that made her feel both reassured and challenged. "That's exactly why I want you. You don't have the corporate experience everyone else has, and that's a strength. You bring a fresh perspective, and that's what this company needs." He was serious. Carla stood there for a moment, her mind racing. The offer was everything she had ever wanted, yet it felt terrifying. She had always been the one on the outside, the one struggling to make ends meet. Now, she was being asked to lead? It didn't make sense. But then, she remembered how far she had come, how much she had already proven to herself. "I'll do it," she said, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside. Jordan's eyes lit up. "I knew you would. Welcome to the team, Carla." The words felt surreal, like they were meant for someone else. But they were meant for her. She was in this now. The next few days were a blur of new meetings, new responsibilities, and a new sense of purpose. She met with her team, discussed strategies, and began to shape the direction of her projects. It was overwhelming, but it felt right. Every time she felt like she couldn't do it, she thought of Jordan's faith in her. He believed in her, and now, so did she. One evening, as she sat at her desk, reviewing a report, Jordan came by to check in. "How are you doing?" he asked, his voice calm. Carla looked up, surprised by the concern in his voice. "I'm doing okay. It's a lot to handle, but I'm managing." Jordan nodded, a hint of pride in his eyes. "I knew you would. Just don't forget to take care of yourself, too." Carla smiled, feeling the weight of his words. She was no longer just a cleaning lady. She was a leader now, and she was ready to make the most of this opportunity. The days following Carla's promotion were a whirlwind of new challenges, but there was something exciting about it all. The work felt meaningful, and she could see the impact she was making. Her team trusted her, and with every meeting, with every project, she felt herself growing more confident. Jordan's belief in her was still a powerful motivator. However, the more she settled into her new role, the more she began to notice something in Jordan that made her uneasy. He had always been supportive, but lately, she felt a shift in their dynamic. He would stop by her office more often than usual, offering praise and feedback, but there was something in the way he looked at her, something more than just professional respect. At first, she dismissed it. After all, they were both adults, and she knew he had always been a man of confidence and high standards. But as the days went on, the glances lingered longer, and his conversations became more personal. One afternoon, as Carla was wrapping up a meeting with her team, Jordan came by her office. "How's everything going?" he asked, leaning against the doorframe. "Good," she replied, her voice steady, but something in the air made her feel uneasy. "Really good," she added, almost too quickly. He smiled, and there was that look again, that soft, almost intimate gaze. "I'm glad to hear that. You're doing an incredible job, Carla. I've never seen someone take charge so quickly." His voice was warm, but there was an underlying tension she couldn't quite place. "Thank you," she said, trying to maintain her professional demeanor. "I'm just doing my best." There was a long pause before Jordan spoke again. "I know you are," he said, his tone almost softer. "And you're more than capable. It's just, I've noticed something in you. Something more than just your work ethic." Carla's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't sure what he meant, but she could feel her guard go up. "What do you mean?" she asked cautiously. He took a step closer to her desk, his eyes locked on hers. "I mean that you're not just a capable employee, Carla. You've become someone I admire, someone I trust. And trust is hard to come by in my world." His words sent a chill through her. This wasn't just a compliment. This was something else. Carla forced herself to stay calm. "I appreciate that, Jordan, but I think it's important we keep things professional." He seemed to snap out of his momentary vulnerability, and a smile returned to his face. "Of course," he said, quickly stepping back. "I didn't mean to make things uncomfortable. Let's get back to work." But the tension remained. As the days went on, Carla couldn't shake the feeling that things were changing between them. The line between professional and personal had become blurred, and she wasn't sure how to navigate it. She found herself questioning her own feelings. Did she feel the same way about him? Was it just his power and influence that made him seem more attractive, or was there something real there? For now, she chose to focus on the work. But in the back of her mind, she knew that the situation with Jordan was something she couldn't ignore forever. She needed to keep her focus, but the dynamics were shifting in ways that were impossible to ignore. The following weeks were filled with a quiet tension that Carla couldn't shake. Jordan continued to be supportive, pushing her to excel, but there was an underlying current between them that she could no longer ignore. The professional facade they had maintained seemed to crack with each passing day, and now, she found herself questioning her own feelings. She admired him, of course, but was it more than that? Was there something deeper pulling her toward him, or was it just the complexity of their working relationship? She had always been cautious, never one to mix business with anything personal, especially not with someone like Jordan. But the more time they spent together, the harder it became to ignore the way he made her feel. One late afternoon, after a long day of meetings and project reviews, Jordan asked her to stay for a private conversation. "Carla, I need to talk to you about something," he said, his tone more serious than usual. She was tired, but nodded, curious about what he had to say. They sat down in his office, the late evening sunlight casting a soft glow through the large windows. "I've been thinking about our work together, and I want to be clear," Jordan began, his eyes meeting hers. "You've been doing incredible things here. You've exceeded my expectations in every way." Carla's heart skipped a beat, but she kept her expression neutral. "Thank you. I'm just doing my job." Jordan smiled, but it was softer this time. "No, you're doing more than that. You're helping me see things differently." Carla could feel the weight of his words. There was something different in the way he looked at her now, something that felt personal, something that made her heart race. "I know you're probably wondering where this is going," Jordan continued. "I've been impressed by your work ethic, your drive, and your ability to make tough decisions. But I also want you to know that I respect you. I respect what you've been through and how you've handled everything." Carla shifted in her seat, unsure of what to say. She hadn't expected this level of vulnerability from him. "I don't want to make things uncomfortable between us," Jordan added quickly. "But I think you should know that I care about you, more than just as a colleague." The words hit her like a wave, and for a moment, she couldn't breathe. Was he admitting what she thought he was? She didn't know what to say, and the silence between them stretched on. Jordan looked at her, his expression unsure. "I didn't expect to feel this way," he said quietly. "I've been trying to keep things professional, but I can't ignore how I feel." Carla felt her mind racing, trying to process what he was saying. She had always been careful with her emotions, but now, she was at a crossroads. She had spent so long building her career, focusing on her goals, and now, she had to decide whether to let herself be vulnerable. "I don't know what to say," Carla finally managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not sure I'm ready for this." Jordan nodded, his face softening with understanding. "I get it. I just wanted to be honest with you. I care about you, Carla, but I respect whatever decision you make." Carla sat there in silence, her thoughts a whirlwind. She respected Jordan more than anyone she had ever worked with, but she was afraid. Afraid of what would happen if she allowed herself to feel the same way. Would it change everything between them? Would it jeopardize everything she had worked for? The questions filled her mind, but one thing was clear: things had changed. Whether she was ready or not, she knew that the next step would define both her career and her personal life in ways she couldn't yet imagine. Days passed, and Carla found herself reflecting on the conversation she had had with Jordan. She couldn't deny the pull she felt toward him, but there was something else, a voice deep inside telling her to stay focused. It wasn't just the professional boundaries, though those were important too. It was about her own sense of self, the career she had built from the ground up, and the life she had worked so hard to create. She couldn't afford to risk it all for something she wasn't sure of. But despite the doubts, there was a part of her that couldn't ignore the way he made her feel, the way he saw her not just as an employee, but as someone with real potential, someone worthy of respect and admiration. The tension between them continued to grow, and neither of them spoke of it directly again. It was as though they both understood that the unspoken feelings were there, but neither wanted to push the other. Work continued as usual. Carla led her team with a confidence that had only grown since she had accepted the leadership role. She had become a force to be reckoned with, someone who was respected and admired for her work ethic, her intelligence, and her ability to inspire those around her. But despite all of her achievements, there was still that quiet moment when she found herself wondering about Jordan, about the possibility of something more. One day, after a particularly long meeting, Jordan asked her to stay behind. The office was almost empty, and the quiet was almost comforting. As she walked into his office, she saw him standing by the window, just as he had been that day when they had talked about everything that had happened between them. He looked at her, his expression serious but soft. "Carla, I need to be honest with you," he said, his voice low. "I've thought a lot about what we discussed, and I can't keep pretending that it doesn't matter to me. I care about you, more than I probably should." Carla's heart raced. There it was again, the same vulnerability he had shown before, but now it was clear that it wasn't just a passing moment. He meant it. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her thoughts. I care about you too, Jordan, she said, her voice steady but her heart beating in her chest. But I'm not sure I'm ready to let things change. He nodded, his gaze never leaving hers. I understand. I just want you to know how I feel, and I'm not asking you to make any decisions now. I value what we have here, both professionally and personally, but I can't keep pretending that I don't feel something deeper. The honesty in his words was refreshing, but it also brought a sense of clarity. Carla realized that, no matter how hard she tried to keep things professional, the truth was undeniable. She had feelings for him too. It wasn't just about the job anymore. It was about a connection they both shared, one that went beyond the office. The decision wasn't easy. It never would be. But Carla knew that she had to follow her heart. Let's take things one step at a time, she said, her voice quiet but firm. We don't have to rush into anything, but we also don't have to ignore what's right in front of us. Jordan's face softened into a smile that reached his eyes. One step at a time sounds perfect. From that moment on, things were different. They didn't rush into anything, but they allowed themselves to explore the possibility of something more. Carla continued to lead with strength, and Jordan supported her every step of the way. Their relationship evolved naturally, with both of them still holding onto the professional boundaries that had brought them together in the first place. But now, there was a deeper connection, one that they both knew would take time to fully understand. In the end, Carla realized that she hadn't just found a career opportunity that changed her life. She had found someone who saw her for who she truly was, someone who respected her, challenged her, and, most importantly, cared for her. It wasn't a fairy tale, but it was real, and that was enough.